Previously on Snails with No Shells.
And I would hear it from people in the barbershop every week because I was just, rookie sports reporter. A
Mm-hmm.
lot of times my assignment editor would not send me, even though I grew up in inner city Memphis, my assignment editor would send me to cover football games in the upscale parts of town, in the suburbs.
Mm-hmm.
They would send me to cover those games on Friday nights.
Mm.
And so I always got these questions every single week. I walk into the barbershop. Why do you cover this game? Why y'all cover this? Y'all put this little paragraph in the paper? And I would explain to them. This is something I learned in journalism school because I was curious about it too. Why does the US News and World Reports always ranking these colleges? They always got to put all these Princetons and Harvards and Yales and
Mm-hmm.
Stanfords and Cal Berkeley and Michigan and all these high profile colleges. Why you always rank them in the top 20, top 30 in the country? One of
Mm-hmm.
the reasons I found out the same rings true for newspapers. Most of those editors, those top executive editors at those newspapers,
Mm-hmm.
children go to those schools.
Oh.
That's who buy the paper mostly. That's who put big money into these papers, into these publications. Now, this happened before newspapers began to go on life support because most newspapers are um, digital now.
Right.
And of course, that's something that I don't like because I am a newspaper guy.
Right.
Um, and so, but that is the reason why. And I've always found myself explaining that to people, and people begin to. Uh, some went as far as to label me Uncle Tom.
Are you ready to be in the spotlight? Are you ready to share your story with the world? Well, Snails with No Shells is where you need to be. Available on all digital platforms, Facebook, and YouTube. Snails with No Shells. Leave that shell at the door. Where did we go wrong? We were doing so
But I told him I had no control over what my assignment editor sent me to report.
well. Mm-hmm.
And so, a lot of times people will, speak out of ignorance when it
Mm-hmm.
comes to things like that. And so, that never diminished my love and passion for journalism. And, I matter of fact, even though newspapers have uh, suffered tremendously within the past 2 decades, I never lost my passion and love for journalism. So here we are.
Dang, that's crazy. I did not know. I didn't know that the journalists went through all that. I had no idea.
Oh
Wow. So,
yeah.
so
They
now
could-
I love it. We getting the
Mhm.
backstory. We just see the perform, we just see the what's printed out. We just see, your story, but we don't know what it took to get the story and the
Right.
backlash that you get after putting the story out.
Oh
Wow,
yeah.
I had no idea.
Yes. Yes. And for years, we're the only profession. If you really think about it,
Mm.
we're the only profession. This is something I learned in journalism school as well. We're the only profession that's protected by the U.S. Constitution. Freedom of the press.
Mm.
Doctor, a lawyer,
Mhm.
a teacher, a pastor, engineer, regardless of whatever profession you in. My wife is in dentistry. You all have to have a license to do what you have to do in those industries. In journalism, you don't. We're protected by the U.S. Constitution, and so that's why And there have been times where government have tried to make it where we have to be licensed to do our job, but
Mm.
we're the only industry that's protected by the U.S. Constitution. So,
Wow.
and I found that fascinating as well. So, and that's why we're able to go to these high-profile events
Mm-hmm.
and don't have to pay to get in because they give us media passes to come in and do what we do. So I'm grateful about that as well.
That's the perks. All right. Young people or anybody that's watching it, you see, it's perks to being, perks to being a journalist. If you're thinking about getting into it, that's definitely one of them. I love that. So how long were you in journalism school? Did you have to go to a regular college first and then go to journalism school, or how did that work?
Actually, journalism school is obviously at the university. I enrolled initially in fall of 1993 after I left Memphis Whitehaven High School.
Mm-hmm.
I immediately enrolled in the University of Tennessee
Mm-hmm.
School of Journalism, and of course, it's getting back to what I was mentioning earlier. I
Mm-hmm.
was one of those types of students who I didn't party a lot as a college student. I went to a lot of parties. I did.
Mm-hmm.
Party at 12 o'clock at night, and I had already done what I needed to do throughout the day, so there was nothing else to do. So I went to parties, but I partied quite a bit. But I always worked a lot too while I was in college. I was
Mm-hmm.
one of those type of persons that I didn't want to call home and ask for money. I wanted my own money, and I
I
like to
know
dress,
that's
and I
right.
like to dress up too.
Mm-hmm.
So
He
I
still,
worked
hey,
a
he still
lot.
be dressing now to the nines.
I
Him
yeah,
and his wife.
I would dress up a lot,
Mm-hmm.
and I was kind of like a little independent
Mm-hmm.
college student, which led to my not performing so well in the classroom. I didn't
Okay.
apply myself uh, as a college student,
Mm-hmm.
and so college for me lasted 7 years. And at
Okay.
some point, I began to think that am I going to be a career student? In other words, I started off as a traditional student.
Mm-hmm.
Once you turn 25, you are considered a non-traditional student. If
Okay.
you enroll in college at 25 years of age or above, according to most colleges and universities, you are considered a non-traditional student. I graduated college as a non-traditional student at 25 years of age,
Mm-hmm.
but I had 2 internships. I spent so much time in the college newsroom working
Mm-hmm.
on the campus newspaper. I was the only black college journalist on our campus newspaper. So a lot of people, particularly the black student body, knew who I was.
Mm-hmm.
So they would see my columns every week in
Mm-hmm.
the campus paper. And I would love to go over to the University Center on Thursday afternoons, but that was the day the paper came out. I thought that was a day to showcase because I walk into the University Center, people are reading the newspaper, they're reading my stories, they're telling me about my stories, they call me newspaper guy, the news dude, and I had all these weird names,
Mm-hmm.
but I wasn't really applying myself as a college student.
Okay.
Knew I could do the work, but I spent so much time doing other things, and so this is why I ran into issues such as academic probation, and then I ended up leaving the University of Tennessee and going to a junior college in Mississippi, which is about 45 minutes from Memphis.
Okay.
And that for me was a defining moment because, again, when I got to that college, I had learned so much at the university, but it was just a matter of me pulling my grades up, getting back to a 4-year school, and finishing and sealing the deal.
Okay.
Because when I left the university to go to a junior college and pull my grades up, I was already a senior in college.
Mm.
I was a senior. So I spent a year and a half, actually 2 years, 2 academic years, 4 academic semesters, which is equivalent to 2 years, spent all that time pulling my grades up.
Mm.
Here's the thing, here's the silver lining in all of that. Had I graduated in 4 years, majoring in print journalism, I would not have gotten hired by a major daily newspaper in those 4 years. Because I recalled the conversation, the editor who hired me out of college, I recalled the conversation he and I had. And I asked him, when I think I was maybe a sophomore or junior, so what are my chances of getting hired at a big newspaper coming out of college? He said, you will have to go work at a relatively smaller paper for about 2, 3, 4 years before we even would consider hiring you.
Wow.
This is had I graduated in 1997. I went to college in 93. Had I graduated in 97, I would have been faced with going to a much smaller or even a weekly newspaper.
Mhm.
for peanuts and Coke.
Wow.
But because my college graduation, should I say, was prolonged, because I ended up spending 2.5 years just even pulling my grades up. By the time I graduated in 1993, 2000, some of those restrictions with major newspapers had been lifted. So when I graduated on May 5th, 2000, 3 days later, I walked into the newsroom of a major daily newspaper.
Wow.
So that is the silver lining that I see in failure. What is my point? There's always a silver lining in moments of failure. That's something we should always look for, the silver lining in whatever obstacle you're faced with. And that is what I can take from having faced academic probation, going to a junior college, leaving the university, the traditional college life, and having to get accepted back to university and spending another 1.5 years there just to graduate.
Wow. You had to get it done by any means necessary.
I had to get it done because journalism was something I always knew. Because I spent so much time in the newsroom, I knew what to do as a journalist. Going to journalism school, you're learning the whys. Why are you doing it? Taking journalism, communications, law classes. This had nothing to do with newspaper. But just like business, whatever field you in, education, you have to take a law class. And that was a law class that we had to take to learn how not to get sued. That was one of the hardest classes I had taken as an undergraduate. Matter of fact, I failed it twice. Before I even passed it. And so, having spent all that time in school, I was relieved on May 5th, 2000 at 6:32 in the evening when I looked down at my watch and my name was called to get my degree.
Yes.
And I remember everything that happened that day. I didn't find out I was graduating until about 3 hours before I graduated.
Wow.
And I went to the graduation practice that morning. Had no idea that I would even be qualified for graduating.
Wow.
I got my last grade around noon, and I was officially cleared to graduate. Had my cap and gown and everything. And was officially cleared to graduate around 1 o'clock, and the graduation was at 4.
Wow. That is wow.
One of the happiest moments of my life, because I remember my mom managed to get down there. I didn't tell her anything. I didn't tell her. When I found out about 1 o'clock that afternoon, that I'm finally, this 7-year stretch is finally about to end. Getting ready to go into the next phase of my life. That weekend alone was just mind-boggling for me. It was just so memorable, so emotional. I woke up Saturday morning, I cried, and I ended up, because I had graduated finally, and then of course 2 days later I ended up walking and landing my dream job. So that whole week, I'm just so forever grateful to God for what happened, what transpired that weekend.
Yes.
Because it was well worth the wait. And 7 years, 7 from a biblical perspective is completion.
Yes. Yep. That's amazing. I love that. And thank you for, being transparent and sharing that story. Some people don't want to tell, their struggles, and be honest about things that happen.
You have to be. Yeah, you have to be. In no way am I condoning that a student go to school and finish in 7 years. Everyone. Some students finish in 3 years.
Right.
Some don't finish.
Right.
Some are 1 semester wonders.
Right.
They go for a semester, they leave, and they don't go back because they find out that college isn't for them.
Right.
And I always knew that college was for me. I had other things going on, such as working and trying to look nice for the girls. And
right.
So, but I knew I could do the work, as evidenced by what happened on May 5th, 2000. But, again, this is extremely imperative that I share this with the young people.
Mm-hmm.
Make sure that whatever you go to, if you know that college is for you, you have to work hard. You have to apply yourself. There are activities that you're involved in. Yeah, get involved, because those things will go a long way for you for years to come. And it did for me. You know, working on the campus newspaper. Major newspapers saw that. You know, every week that my stories were published, I would send them back to Memphis, to the Memphis newspaper. I did this.
Mm-hmm.
I would mail the newspapers to the Memphis paper. So by the time I applied for an internship, they already knew who I was.
All right, take notes.
Yes, no golden opportunity is wasted.
Mm-hmm.
That's my point. That's the point I want to make. No golden opportunity is wasted. You have to take advantage. And you know, fortunately for me, it took 7 years to get out of school, but those 7 years were probably the most memorable. Was probably the most memorable season of my life, and if it weren't for those 7 years, we probably wouldn't be having this conversation right now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I love it. I love you. Like, you didn't give up. And sometimes our time is not God's time, right? So you know, you can have a plan, and I talk about that. You can have a plan and have your blueprint, but it doesn't always work the way you think it's going to work.
Right.
You know, sometimes God has something that that He needs to let you know.
I believe those additional 3 years that I spent in college trying to pull my grades up and ultimately trying to graduate was a setup for God to bless me with the dream job I got. I know it is, because that's what happened.
Exactly.
So, I'm happy about that. I'm happy it took me 7 years. I do believe, had I come out of college at just 22 years of age, I'm still young. I don't know what I want to do. I probably would have got a job at a newspaper, even if it was a smaller one, and messed it up. But because those 3 years, those 3 years to prepare to and get more advanced experience.
Yes.
It really was a setup and a defining moment in my career.
And probably we probably matured a little bit during that time too.
Oh, absolutely. I had no choice about it. You know, obviously, you definitely matured, because, it was a humbling experience, because I was taken out of my comfort zone. Something about going to a university, when you at the university, you got all the perks that come with going to school at a university, the traditional college life. That was all snatched away from me, and I was sent to school as a commuter. And so, that was definitely a wake-up call for me, because I know that if I don't get it right at this school, at a junior college, which is probably why I should have started off to begin with, but had I not gotten it right at a junior college, there is no way I would go back to university and be successful.
And that's where it all takes place, when you get kicked out of that comfort zone. And because the comfort zone could be your enemy. You know, you think it's good, but it could cause you to be stagnant. It could be holding you back potentially.
Absolutely.
Yes. So everything definitely happens outside of that comfort zone. I love this story. Thank you for sharing that. Now let's get into making headline news. What's up with that? Let's talk about that, Mr. Johnson.
Okay. Well, we can stick with the comfort zone thing per se. Making headline news was started on Thursday, December the 8th, 2016. I was in my comfort zone working for another publication that was based out of Memphis. Here I am in Dallas. Had been here for a little more than 2 years, working for a publication out of Memphis. I was pretty much doing the same exposure type thing for business owners and athletes around the country, but it wasn't my publication. It was someone else's publication. I was just the senior writer, the lead editor for the publication. So I came here to Dallas, constantly working under that publication for about 2.5 years. And on the morning of December 8, 2016, the publisher of that publication ceased operations of his publication. He didn't tell me.
So what does that mean? Cease operations of his
He
publication?
shut it down.
Oh.
I had no access to it. Couldn't log in. Couldn't create stories. Couldn't post stories. Had an NBA game that day. Had just attended the morning practice of that NBA team. And when I was getting ready to put up my pregame report, I couldn't log in. He had ceased operations. I called him, emailed him, texted him. Never got a response to this day. You've been a part of my publication. I had book advertisers that day. So I was faced with two options. Either give my advertisers their money back or start my own publication. Comfort zone. I had just left the arena. I was in my car, in my truck, on the parking lot with my laptop. And I said, I am not going to leave this arena until my own publication is up and running. This is about 10 o'clock Eastern Standard Time that morning. By 2 o'clock that afternoon, Making Headline News was up and running. Making Headline News.
Wow.
Was not only founded in downtown Dallas, but it was founded on the parking lot of an NBA arena. And here we are.
Wow.
All those years I spent in journalism, all those years I spent writing for different newspapers around the country. People had already bought into my vision as a journalist, but knew my reporting style, things of that nature. And even to this day, as I mentioned, the editor who I worked for, the publisher who I worked for all those years, ceased operations. Haven't heard from him to this day. No, we're still Facebook friends too. We are. He never got back with me about what happened. But I don't take things like that personal, because it was time because if I'm focusing on why that publication ceased operations, then it's taken away from what I should be doing. And I believe that God was stretching my faith that day. He wasn't necessarily just testing. He was pushing me to stretch my faith that day. And once I book an advertiser, what I want to do is earn that advertiser's trust. And I call my advertisers back and say, hey, I'm gonna have to refund you money because the publication ceased operations. I could have potentially lost my credibility that day.
Right.
So I had to make it happen. And not only was I blessed to make it happen, I came back bigger and better than ever before. So now I see the day-to-day operations of my own media outlet, which brought in, even during the pandemic, unprecedented economic revenue. Because there were businesses that was looking to still remain relevant during the pandemic. So they reached out to us. And so Making Headline News, I believe, is my baby, obviously. But it has been a game changer in my career as a journalist. And so for that, I'm grateful about that. And I'm so grateful to you and all the advertisers around the country who have logged on, who have followed my work throughout these years. I'm so humbled by that, because it's people like you who have made this publication to what it is. It's not so much all the years that I spent in journalism school. It's my advertisers around the country, people who I haven't even met in person. But they've seen enough of my work to trust my work, purchase advertising.
Yeah.
And so that's something that I'm really, really happy about. Yeah, I'm fulfilling my dream, interviewing pro athletes. That's great. I love that. But it's my advertisers around the country who have really made this thing, have really brought this publication to what it is now. And so that's something that I don't take lightly. So, again, I believe that this gentleman ceasing operations of his publication, that was God's way of taking me out of my comfort zone to stretch my faith to start my own publication. So here we are.
I love that. You had to go through the cocoon, and he's like, "Okay, it's time to fly, butterfly.
That's right.
Time to fly."
Yeah.
I love that. I love
I
that.
think it was. I think it was more so of a children of Israel experience. We don't have to be slaves to anything. We
Mm-hmm.
don't. We don't have to be slaves to anything. If God is pushing you, whatever God is pushing you to do, if you seek Him for divine direction, if you exercise your faith, because they work hand in hand, you have to seek Him for direction. You can't lean onto your own understanding. And I leaned into my own understanding that day, I would have cussed that guy out.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
probably through text messaging or
Right.
email, because I couldn't get him on the phone.
Yeah.
But because I did not lean into my own understanding, and because I knew since middle school that I had a vision in journalism, I had no choice but to start my own publication. And so every single day, I'm forever grateful. I'm just thanking God for making headline news, because it has connected me with so many great people around the country. Not just here in Dallas, not just in Memphis where I'm from, but around the country.
That's awesome. That is awesome. That is awesome. And quickly, I just saw you won some type of award.
I did. That was one of my advertisers in Oklahoma City. I had no idea that I had won this award. The award show took place on July 9th.
Mm-hmm.
And I had no idea that I was up for this business education award. And he reached out to me, say about 3 or 4 days ago, and told me that my name was called for this award. And I highlighted his organization, a few times, but there were people who followed that story, followed his movement, his nonprofit organization, actually named me as a recipient for that award. So I was very, very happy for that. Of course, this is my second award this year.
Okay.
I had one because I won a Man of Valor award out of a credible organization out of Atlanta. So, to me, again, that goes back, that's a testament to my advertisers and followers around the country.
Yes.
This was a collective effort. This was not something that I did on my own. I'm the visionary behind making headline news, but as far as I'm concerned, this award, everybody wins.
Mm-hmm.
It took everyone. It took you. It took Vanessa Blackwell. It took Dr. Jennifer Bryant. I can go on and on. Most importantly, it took God planting to me this vision, and not only planting to me this vision, but bless me with a helpmeet who works behind the scenes to make this publication go. So it's not more so of me. It's people like you, and it's of course my wife, who really has stepped in and make this engine go. And so for that, I'm so happy for everybody and all my supporters around the country that this has happened. I could not have won this award without them.
That's awesome. That's amazing. I wish I had a sound machine that will clap for you. Thank you so much. That was beautiful. I enjoyed this time that we shared, get a chance to, really see, because you do amazing, ladies and gentlemen, he does amazing work. Amazing work. You need to make sure you check Mr. Andre T. Johnson out. He is the truth. He is the truth.
Please connect with us. A lot of times people know me primarily as a sports writer, but I have branched off. And that I started my own publications. Of course, any media outlet, with the exception of the ones that are geared towards sports, like ESPN, most of them report not just news; they report sports. And so, sports journalism is not more so about who won the game, field goal percentages and winning percentages and things like that. We have to report on players' deaths, player contracts. Obviously, look at Deshaun Watson when he's dealing with off the field. Potential criminal issues and things like that. That's news. That has nothing to do with box scores, things like that. So, if you got a business you got a nonprofit organization, if you're launching a book, if you got a ministry, I see now that most of the CDC regulations are being lifted. Mostly even your churches are starting to open back up and inviting members in. If you want to reintroduce your ministry, this platform, which has thousands of readers reading it daily, reach out to us. Let us help push and promote your brand. This is definitely the right platform to do that. I'm not saying that just because I'm the visionary. The proof is in the pudding. We have all of the reviews to prove that this publication has become a massive game changer for media exposure around the country. So if you got something you're trying to push, especially a book, authors have become our biggest customer. Mm-hmm. Reach out to us. Let us help you and push your brand at an affordable cost. And right now, we are running a 2-for-1 special. Anybody want to reach out over the next week or so, contact us. We love to produce you with an ad at a low rate. You will not only have one ad, but you'll have two that you can use the second one anytime you get ready for it. So again, thank you so much for having me, and we look forward to servicing anyone around the country.
That's amazing. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, you can contact Mr. Andre Johnson. You can go to www.makingheadlinenews.com to check that out, and on Facebook under Andre T. Johnson. Okay, because this is going to be on audio too. So I want to make sure I say it so they can know exactly where to find you.
Absolutely.
Oh, wow. Well, again, I have really enjoyed this time. Thank you so much for coming on Snails With No Shells. We appreciate you. And please make sure you tell your lovely wife again, thank you. Thank her. Thank you for allowing you to spend this time with me on this show.
I count it an honor. I'm trying to come out. Snails and shells, I like that. Speaking of shells, I'm trying to come out of my shells of doing more interviews. Mm-hmm. There have been a lot of interviews I've turned down over the past year or so. And of course, she always tells me, you need to come out of your shell, do more interviews. And I'm trying to open up more. Most print journalists, we love behind the scenes and doing things. We don't like to do a lot of interviews, but in this age now, most print journalists are starting to transition to television. Look at Stephen A. Smith and Michael Wilbon, David Aldrich. These black reporters all started at newspapers. So a lot of them are transitioning. A lot of people didn't know that, but a lot of them, and they cover the NBA like me. But a lot of these print journalists are starting to transition more so to television, and so. Thank you again. I'm definitely trying to come out of my shell and do more interviews, and whatever we can do to help boost your brand. Just know that we are here for you. I count it an honor. I felt so good about coming on this platform. I don't count it lightly at all. So thank you again. I love your platform, and rest assured I'll definitely be following it, and we will do whatever we can to help boost it.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you. Thank you. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to wrap this up. This was an amazing time. Oh my goodness. I could probably be on here with you for another hour, but you got to go eat. Your wife is cooking some greens and stuff. And I love it. All right. Well, thank you.
I do want to say one more thing. I do want to apologize to the debris that we see in the background. There's a Dallas Cowboy helmet over my shoulders. So I do want to apologize to your viewers for that.
Hold up.
My wife is a Cowboy fan.
Yeah, I am too. So that helmet is just fine right where it is.
Thank you.
She said thank you.
From the background, thank you.
She said thank you. So I do want to apologize to your non-Cowboy fans. All you that is not we haven't had a tornado in here. That's her helmet back there. So.
I love it. That is awesome. All right, well, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to end this show. We're going to end this show today. We're going to end Snails With No Shells today. this hour. Again, I had an amazing time. I love the energy. And again, congratulations and thank you.
Thank you.
And before we go, I would just like to say, remember, just like the sun, you are necessary. I love y'all.
Just my imagination, or is it just insanity for me to constantly care for that deep soul?